Hello and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Gen Con. It's hard to believe we are already here. Doors are open, folks. Gen Con is happening right now. And I have got all kinds of cool stuff to share with you today. I'm Eric Mona. I am the publisher at Paizo, and I have a whole crew of members of our creative team to come in to tell you about what we're releasing at the show, what's coming up, what we're announcing at the show, and a bunch of other awesome stuff related to Paizo's programming at Gen Con 2024. Now, if you're at the show, come and visit us. We're at booth 203, right inside the door of the exhibit hall. We are also have hundreds of tables in the Sagamore Ballroom. The fabled Sagamore Ballroom, ancestral homeland of the Pathfinder Society, is packed with Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society games all weekend long. We are also demoing games in Hall C. So if you're in Hall C and you see some Pathfinder or Starfinder stuff, check it out. We've got demos running the whole show long. And of course, our partners at Sirenscape, who provide some of the most awesome sounds for Pathfinder and Starfinder games, will be running demos at their booth. So you can come to our booth, booth 203. You can come to the Sagamore Ballroom. You can come to Hall C. And you can go to the Sirenscape booth to learn more about Pathfinder, Starfinder, and our exciting releases from Paizo. But don't go yet. Stick around. We've got a bunch of folks from my team coming in to talk about what they've been working on, sometimes for years, and what we're releasing and announcing here at the show. Speaking of the show, we're excited that this year we are back with a bunch of in-person panels at Gen Con. Those panels will be recorded and will be released online in a week or two. But for now, if you're at the show, come and check out the following Pathfinder and Starfinder panels. We have the Starfinder Roadmap panel, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. This is an exceptionally exciting show for us for Starfinder because this Gen Con is when we are releasing the Starfinder playtest rulebook. You can get it right now as a free download on paizo.com. You can get it right now as a book in your local gaming store or at booth 203. And we would love to hear what you think of the new Starfinder rules. They finally bring Starfinder into alignment with the core system of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We've got your 3-action economy. We've got your degrees of success. We've got a fully updated setting and rule set ready to go with your commentary. The full rules will release next year at Gen Con 2025, but right now you can get it on the action of the Starfinder playtest at booth 203, and you can come to our Starfinder Roadmap panel Friday at 1 p.m. to learn all the details. Also, right after that, Friday at 2 p.m., we have the Pathfinder War of Immortals panel. War of Immortals is our big release that is coming in a couple of months. It's an October release, and we have all kinds of fun stuff to talk about it, all kinds of tie-ins. We killed a god, you guys. There's a dead god, and what does that mean when it spreads the dead god's blood all over the world of Golarion in a hailstorm of fire and rain? Well, mostly rain that will imbue players with mythic power. That's all covered in War of Immortals, and we'll be talking about it in greater detail Friday at 2 p.m. at the War of Immortals panel. We also have a full playtest of not just what's coming up with Starfinder, that's the Starfinder Roadmap panel on Friday at 1, but we have a Starfinder playtest panel on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. How do you playtest Starfinder? What can you expect to see in the Starfinder playtest adventures? What sort of feedback are we looking for to perfect the system to make it as good as it can possibly be in 2025? Those are all great questions, and we'll be covering all of those at the Starfinder playtest panel Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We got one more panel at Gen Con. That's Saturday at 3 p.m., and that's going to be the Pathfinder Remaster Project Retrospective. Also releasing at Gen Con this year, Player Core 2, the fourth in the Pathfinder 2nd Edition remaster project that we initiated last year, is finally upon us. We have completed the remaster of the core rules of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, updating all kinds of stuff, getting rid of some unwelcome open game license stuff that just wasn't fitting anymore, and setting out on a new path for Pathfinder. That preliminary step of that path basically wraps up today with the release of the Player Core 2. So come on by, check out Player Core 2, check out the Pathfinder Remaster Project Retrospective. panel on Saturday at 3 p.m. And let's move forward into an exciting new chapter for the Pathfinder role-playing game. Speaking of exciting new chapters, we have got a couple of streams that we are sponsoring with the Glass Cannon Network. There's a Pathfinder stream happening this morning, this afternoon. So after we're done here and after you're done watching our programming, go check out the Pathfinder stream on the Glass Cannon channel. And then we also are going to be doing a Starfinder live show Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. So you can check that out. I believe there's a Saturday stream, or sorry, a stream tonight for Starfinder as well on the Glass Cannon channel. The Saturday one is going to be a live event. So what else is going on? Wow. We also are celebrating Gen Con with a special sale. You can get a bunch of stuff on sale today and for the next little while the show is going by using the discount code GenCon 2024. All one word, GenCon 2024 when you check out at Paizo.com, and that'll give you 20% off your entire order. There are tons and there are thousands of products on sale with this code. Whoa, you better take advantage of this because it's only going to happen during the show. The deal is not valid on back orders, pre-orders, subscriptions. There's a couple of products that are not in the list, but the vast majority are. So check out Gen Con 2024 discount code and get your 20% off on Paizo.com. Gen Con's such a huge moment for us. We release so many big products. We announce so much stuff. We release a bunch of cool stuff in the booth, but we understand that not everyone can make it to the show. And that's why we want to bring a little bit of the excitement of Gen Con to everyone, both through streams on this channel, but also through that Gen Con 2024 discount code. Check it out, load up your cart, and save a little bit of money. 'Tis the season. All right, so this presentation that you are watching right now is our annual Gen Con keynote. We're going to bring out a pile of designers and developers and creative directors to talk about what they've been working on, what's coming out this weekend, what's coming out in the next few months, maybe even peeking a little bit into 2025. First up, we're going to have Starfinder 2nd Edition. Starfinder team's going to come in here, tell you all about the playtest, tell you what they're excited about, tell you some stuff they've never said in public before about our upcoming plans for Starfinder 2nd Edition. So you are not going to want to miss that. Following the Starfinder team, we've got the team that worked on Pathfinder War of Immortals, that killing the god book that infuses everyone with mythic power I was talking about. They're going to come to talk not just about the War of Immortals hardcover book, but also the Pathfinder Lost Omens Divine Mysteries book, a 320-page guide to the gods of Golarion after the God's Reign. This is going to update all of our God stuff to the remaster. This is going to double the number of gods that we've usually talked about. It is a huge book. It is a beautiful book, and it is a book filled with details that the team is so excited to share with you in just a few minutes here in this panel. We'll also be talking about our adventure tie-ins because we've got some adventures and adventure paths that tie in to the War of Immortals event. And finally, we want to talk about the God's Reign novel. We are putting out a hardcover novel called God's Reign that covers the events of the War of Immortals from the perspective of a couple of characters who you might recognize. Kira the Cleric, Mauriciel the Rogue, and a bunch of their friends in the iconic character group of Pathfinder are taking center stage in this novel, and we will see the God's Reign through their eyes and through the beautiful words of Leanne Merciel, one of our most popular novelists from the Pathfinder Tales novels, finally returns, Paizo's first major fiction event in 10 years, and we cannot wait to give you more details in just a few minutes. Following up the War of Immortals chat, we'll also be talking about another exciting project for Pathfinder, and that is our exploration of the continent of Tian Xia. Tian Xia is inspired by Asian fantasy. We've already released the Tian Xia World Guide, which has gotten very good reviews. People seem to really like it. That covers the history and the nations and the lore of Tian Xia, but the Tian Xia character guide, which comes out in August, that is going to cover the player's stuff. So that's going to have your archetypes. That's going to have your special spell traditions. That's going to have your special spell gear and magic items. It's a really eclectic and exciting book that provides a ton of information about the types of characters you might find in Tian Xia. And so together, the World Guide and the Character Guide create an entire presentation of the continent just on the opposite side of Golarion from Avestan and Garand, the so-called Inner Sea region. It's a ton of content. There is a great deal to say, and we're excited to talk to you a little bit later today about Lost Omens Tian Xia. Then we're going to wrap things up with a few announcements of super special surprise items that we have not even talked about in public yet in 2025. I'm not even going to tell you what they are because they're so spoilerific. Let's keep anticipation high. So come on, check out after Tian Xia. We've got some new product announcements, and then we're going to wrap things up. Jason Bullman, our director of game design, is going to come to talk about the new Pathfinder board game, Pathfinder Quest. We announced it at PaizoCon. We've got more information and more details. Jason and his team have been working hard on this game for months. We're all super excited to see it come out and to see it launch. And Jason will have a bunch more details for you in just a few minutes. I'll be back after the staff comes to share their excitement and what they're working on, and we'll talk in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to hand things off to Thurston Hillman and the Starfinder team for an exciting look at Starfinder 2nd Edition.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everybody. My name is Thurston Hillman. I am the Managing Creative Director for Starfinder, and with me today is...
I'm Jenny Jarzabski. I am the Senior Developer for Starfinder.
And today, we want to talk to you about Starfinder 2nd Edition. If you're listening to this keynote, it's happening right as the doors are opening at Gen Con. It's it's happening.
It's happening.
This is really the culmination of a lot of work from the Starfinder team, and we are so excited to release the Starfinder playtest rulebook. Wabam! Cover's going to show up right now. This is, a big milestone. This rulebook that's releasing now is all of the sort of components that we think are critical to the start of us moving into the 2nd edition of the game and the components we want to test. This is a book that is bringing Starfinder into a new edition, one that is fully compatible with Pathfinder 2nd edition, specifically the remix products. This is a book that, the team has been working a long time on, where, we've got 6 new base classes, 10 ancestries, over 90 spells, general feats, skill feats, revamped equipment, and more. Always and more. We got to throw that in. This is a book we're really excited to get out there. You can purchase this now in the physical form, but at the time of this releasing right now, you can go to, and get ready, I'm going to say this a lot, starfinderplaytest.com. What was that website again, Jenny?
Starfinderplaytest.com.
And you can get it. You can pick up this playtest rulebook right there along with the start of our playtest process. So we're really excited to get this underway. This is launching now. And along with that, we also have an adventure, a cosmic birthday. You the cover, bang. This is written by our own Jenny Jarzabski, who is with me in this call. Yeah, it was a fever dream. We wrote a thing. Whoa. Jenny, do you want to talk a little bit about A Cosmic Birthday that you can also pick up right now?
Yeah, it sure is a delirious fever dream of the cosmic horror variety. It is a first level module. It's intended for new players to kind of cut their teeth on the system, an introduction to, the 2E rule set, and it deals with a major event in the Starfinder setting, which we've teased a bit before, but we might as well talk about it again here. Our planet Octurne, which many have suspected is actually maybe like some kind of elder god egg. It's this really weird planet with like a psychotropic atmosphere and all these cultists living on it. And yeah, guess what? They were right. It was an egg, and it kind of hatched. So planet exploded, and now we've got this weird entity called the Newborn that has come out, and that is having some really wild effects on the Pact Worlds. And Cosmic Birthday is all about you as players and a GM living through that time and getting to experience that firsthand, be there for our setting changes, react to them, make your own changes, and get to just really experience the beginning of Starfinder 2. It's going to be a really cool adventure to play, honestly. Even if you don't make it to the playtest, definitely check this one out. But you can get it right now, so why not?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this one is available. It's a 64-page softback book for sale at, if you're Gen Con, you can come by our booth. If not, probably at your friendly local game stores and at Paizo.com, as well as the PDF version of that will be for sale as well. And we talked about Cosmic Birthday in the past. Now we're going to talk about something we've mentioned before, but the second module that's going to come out, Q cover, Empires Devoured. This one's going to be releasing in October, so about 2 months away. This is a 10th level adventure. It's a 64-pager as well. It's written by some person.
Who wrote it, Thirsty?
Okay, I wrote it. Fine. Thank you.
Wrote
Hi. This is our attempt to release something that's going to test a bit of the mid-higher levels of play in Starfinder 2nd Edition. Empires Devoured really is about another major setting event, the kickoff of an interstellar war between two of our major civilizations, the Aslanti Star Empire and the Veskarium, both of which are going through some changes. Since we haven't talked a lot about this adventure, I thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe show a little bit more art. Starting off with this purple armored fellow. This is a member of the Sahedron Guard. We're going to be learning more and more about the Sahedron Guard as the edition progresses, but they are a bit of a step above the Aslanti Star Empire's prior Aeon Guard. If you're maybe a fan of Pathfinder, you'll know that the Sahedron has a couple different meanings in our setting, our shared setting now. And you'll get to see more of the Sahedron Guard as time goes on. Then we get some fun half pagers. Here is a excellent piece of artwork of our iconic Mystic Chick playing a video game, little 8-bit little style video game, probably 16-bit actually, but it doesn't matter the bit rate because the universe is decaying around Chick, and if Chick doesn't beat this video game in time, they will be consumed by the end of all things. And
if he dies in the game, he dies in real life.
He does. This is an example of the types of encounters we get to create in Starfinder and are really iconic of the setting that we're providing now. Finally, there's a bit of a final fight, if you will, a culmination battle, or maybe one of the later battles. Here you see two of our iconics, Day the Solarian and our envoy Navasi, fighting a what appears to be a flying Sheeran, but maybe there's more than meets the eye there. All this and more is going to be in Empires Devoured, and we're really excited to get that out there. The surveys that you'll be able to find off of StarfinderPlaytest.com, I told you we'd mention it a lot. Those surveys talk about our adventures as well, and we're really looking forward to getting feedback on your play experiences and thoughts on those adventures. So again, Cosmic Birthday released now, Empires Devoured coming out in October, but we have more. We have digital releases, our playtest scenarios, 2 of which are going to be launching right now. That's going to be our 1st and 5th level playtest scenarios. The first one is Shards of the Glass Planet for 1st level, and our second one is It Came from the Vast, a 5th level adventure. These both match up to the pre-generated characters that are also going to be available off StarfinderPlaytest.com for you to play as those iconic characters we saw in some of that artwork. Each of them get a 1st and a 5th level version. The team worked really hard on getting these ready. Jenny?
If you're here at Gen Con, you can also go check those out. If you come see us in the Sagamore Ballroom or at the booth, we can get you, we can have you actually take a look at those playtest characters and sit down and use those pre-gens in a little a demo or a scenario.
Absolutely. We'll also be doing a live play. Jenny will be sitting at a table where I will be running one of these at Gen Con. So look forward to that. All of this really brings us to, StarfinderPlaytest.com. Yet again, go there, get the playtest rulebook available as a free PDF right now. Participate in our surveys. This is going to be a process that go from now until the end of December. We're really looking forward to getting survey data as you play through games, play through our classes, want to really help steer the direction of this game going forward and help us, make this the best version of Starfinder that it can be. But all that being said, we've talked a lot about the playtest and we're really excited, and that's all releasing now, but Where's Starfinder go from here? Well, I think time has come for us to start talking about the future of Starfinder. See what I did there?
Nice.
All right. So in 2025, a year from now, we will be releasing Starfinder Player Core. That'll be the first of the new core books. We don't have any fancy art to show because we're still working on some of that, but we wanted to just confirm right here and now that a year from now we'll be releasing the new version of this game starting with Player Core. We'll be following that up certainly with the GM Core and Alien Core, an assortment of creatures for you to use in your games. Now, that's going to come a year from now, but what do we do in between a year? What's going to happen? Gosh, there's got to be something more. I mean, but the playtest only runs till December, right? Well, we are pleased to announce something that maybe some keen-eyed folks have caught hints of in the past. We are proud to announce here Starfinder Galaxy Guide.
Woo.
New cover that will be releasing in May 2025. This is a 176-page hardback book detailing the Starfinder setting. It's a bit of an analog to the world guide of Pathfinder War, except we've got a whole galaxy to explore. Jenny, you've been working. You're pretty well in the minds on this book right now. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's going to be a place to have a primer for our setting. So whether you're a brand new player to Starfinder or you're an old Starfinder fan, this is kind of a snapshot of just the most important, what we feel are the most important and exciting hotspots in the galaxy right now going into second edition. So you're going to get kind of a really good intro to our setting and what we want to focus on. Also some hints at what might be coming up in the setting in terms of events and such that will come into play with our adventures in the future. We've got new archetypes for some of our big factions in the galaxy. So, I don't know, maybe something like Hell Knights and Xeno Wardens and all those cool factions. We're going to have write-ups about all of them, some of the major ones, and some new archetypes, as well as 6 new ancestries. Again,
releasing ancestries before the game's even out.
What? Well, the cantina is open, so we have to.
The cantina is open.
We have to. In fact, I think we have some concept art to share with you that we got from our very own Kent Hamilton in-house to show you some sneak peeks of some of these ancestries.
Yeah. So before we jump into the concept art, just real quick, we're gonna mention 3 of the 6 ancestries that are gonna be in this book. The Astrozoans, the Dragonkin, and the Kalos. We're gonna be talking about the other 3 maybe at our roadmap panel. So you should come check that out at Gen Con or online when we post it. But we're really excited to sort of take the lid off some of those and dive in. So let's look at some of this concept art because this is one of the best part of our jobs is getting to see concept art.
It is. So start with my favorite, the Astrozoans, please.
Yes.
They're my
Absolutely.
favorite.
Here we see the concept art for the Astrozoans.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm just going to say, we have so much cool Astrozoan art from Starfinder First Edition, and they're great, but we don't have any transformation sequences. And as you can see in this concept art, you get an idea of what it actually looks like when an Astrozoan transforms. So just for everyone who doesn't know, Astrozoans are kind of a starfish-like alien that they shapeshift, so not magically, but they restructure their organs and muscles and tissue to take on shapes of other creatures. And so you can see right here this cool, weird little Astrozoan transforming into a human or more of a humanoid shape, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Now, following that up, we have a fan favorite. Certainly, with Player Core 2 releasing here, we have the versatile heritage, or more draconic versatile heritage. But in Starfinder, we've always had sort of a base ancestry called the Dragonkin. So here's the concept art again from our own Kent Hamilton. Kent did a lot of the work on the new Pathfinder Second Edition Dragon remastering. So we got Kent to take some of that and put it into Dragonkin, these sort of inhabitants of the world of Triaxis. You can see here, what does a diabolic dragonkin look like, or an earthbound, or a techno dragonkin, something a bit new. These are the types of things that we are looking at in our setting to really emphasize that science fantasy feel to the game. But But that's not all. We're not just doing ancestries here. We've got some other elements in this book that are really interesting from a concept perspective. Here we see the Vesperium concept art that Kent put together. We're really looking at some of these pieces of our setting, these core pieces of our setting, and diving into detail, fleshing them out a bit. Here you'll see some of the art for these Vesperium troops, like shoulder pads,
Look
and
at that tail
helmets,
armor.
the
That's
tail
so
armor.
cool.
Oh my gosh, tail weaponry. Oh, so good,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
good.
think it's a tail blade, but it also looks armored. It's really cool.
Absolutely. So, this is all going to be showing up in Galaxy Guide. Again, that's going to be in May. It's going to fill some of that gap before Player Core comes out. One other thing about this book that's going to be great is there are a ton of backgrounds in this book. So this is going to be a book you're going to be able to grab as a player or a GM, but even as a player, you'll be able to pick this up, read through it, get a sense of a character, maybe play an ancestry that people won't have in the core books right off the bat. And this is all compatible with Pathfinder 2e. So if you want to mix the chocolate and the peanut butter and play an Astrozoan shapeshifter in your Pathfinder campaign, you totally can do that. All right, that is it for Galaxy Guide, again coming out in May. But there's still a couple questions in the air. Adventure content. We want to say right now we are working on adventure content. We're still cooking on that. The adventure stuff that we are working on, I will say, is going to take a bit of a different approach than what you've seen in the past. We aren't ready to talk about that yet, but know that when we launch Starfinder fully next year in 2025, there will be robust adventure support for it coming out. So you can look forward to that. The team is very excited. We've got some things going wild and different. But that, I think, is maybe it, unless we had something else we wanted to talk about. Did we?
I think we had one more announcement that we could share.
Okay, one more thing and one more thing.
One more thing.
Let's pull it up with a little piece of art. We are pleased to announce that in early 2025, so shortly after our playtest, maybe give you a month or two to recuperate from the playtest process, we'll be doing another playtest. This will be a class playtest for two classes, the Technomancer and Mechanic. These are classes that were core classes in Starfinder First Edition. We are really looking forward to presenting some updated versions of these classes in the 2e engine. Part of the reason of us doing a playtest so early after another playtest is because, well, we want to make sure that these classes are available at launch. So whilst the book that these are going to be in, we aren't ready to announce yet. The Technomancer, sort of a nerdy spellcaster type in the future who maybe looks at data pads and can do some unique things with spells, and the Mechanica support class who's going to have a lot of different variety and tactical abilities. Both of those classes, we want to make sure that you're going to be able to play them at the launch of the new game. So releasing them in a playtest form, it's going to give you that access to those. And then the final version of them will be in a book that we won't be releasing probably until 2026, but we're really excited to just get them into the ecosystem early on. And we look forward to going through the class playtest process that we have right now with those classes. And just from us on the Starfinder team, we are so excited to get to share this expression of the game that we've all been working on with you, to talk to you about it. If you're at Gen Con, both myself and Jenny will be there. Please stop by, say hi, tell us your thoughts. We are just so excited to work on these games and build these games alongside you, our fans. So thank you, whether you're just interested in reading the playtest or participating in our surveys. Again, all over at starfinderplaytest.com last time. Really, it just means the world to us. And now we're going to hand it off to the distant past ? Where I hear there's some god conflict brewing. Let's pass it over to Michael Sayer and the Pathfinder team. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, hello, Gen Con. I'm Mike Sayer, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about War of Immortals, a major book coming up in our release schedule here. It's going to tie into a whole lot of other exciting products, and if you haven't heard about this yet, then, well, you haven't been paying attention to a lot of the media stuff we've done so far, but that's okay, because I'm here to get you all caught up. War of Immortals starts with the death of our god of war, Gorum, who is brutally and graphically slain by the god of assassins in an event seen all across the game world. This event spurs a whole bunch of changes and allows us to bring a whole lot of cool options to the Pathfinder 2nd Edition game for you to play with. The first of these new options are the new classes, the Animist and Exemplar. These classes were play tested last year and will be available when War of Immortals releases in October. The first of these classes, the Animist, is a spellcaster who uses spiritual power to bond with entities that can give them new, unusual, and expanded arrays of spells that they can cast. For example, you might bond with a spirit of a volcano that gives you a blasting ability to throw fire and earth around you and a whole lot of other spells kind of related to that theme. Or you might bond with the spirit of something from a darker and less primal place, like the spirit of an ancient dungeon that gives you the ability to create traps and use strange spells and illusions. The nature of this class, what role it might play in the party, is going to be determined a lot by the spirits you choose to associate with and bond with too on any given day. And you can switch those up along with some of your feats using a mechanic called wandering feats that allows you to adapt to whatever roles your party might need to meet whatever situations they're faced with. The second class we have is the Exemplar. The Exemplar is inspired by legendary heroes like Hercules, Gilgamesh, and Maui. The Exemplar has godly power that they contain within them. For our world, many Exemplars got this when the war god Gorm was killed and they were directly exposed to some part of his essence, whether his blood raining down from the heavens or a piece of his armor that they later found. And that might have become one of their holy icons, relics that they can channel their power through for even more fantastic feats and magical effects. The Exemplar is a powerful striker class who kind of wants to lead the way in, and they really mix it up using those divine abilities to heal themselves, protect their allies, and strike out at all of their enemies. But we didn't just add new classes to the game. We also looked at the other classes in the game and said, what kind of classes and characters do we have who maybe don't have an inherent hook, an inherent reason to be involved in a war that is between gods and angels and demons, you know, when they're boots on the ground types. And so we brought in several class archetypes for classes like this. I've talked about others in different venues, but I'm going to talk about one that we haven't talked about before, the Warrior of Legend. The Warrior of Legend is a fighter class archetype that lets you play a character who is a lot like Achilles. Like Achilles, you favor lighter armor, weapons like spears, and you have a weak spot that is tied to your doom. This weak spot will tell you that there is a certain type of weapon or damage that you are particularly vulnerable to. But as you grow in power, you can actually take that doom and channel it into different effects and abilities, like your Spear of Doom attack, where you take that doom you've been building up and unleash it upon your enemy to slay them even more quickly. There's other supporting feats and stuff in here that work. Mostly they are intended for the Warrior of Legend, but some of them are also designed so that any fighter can pick them up. One of my favorite is Needle in the God's Eyes, a 2-action high-level feat that allows you to leap in the air and make multiple strikes across the arc of your leap at any point while you're doing it. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited about giving you all the opportunity to expand the idea of what a fighter is and can be when you get your hands on this book. But it's not just new options for existing characters, and it's not even just new classes. We also have an entire new set of Mythic rules. This is a completely reimagined system. You may be familiar with Mythic rules from Pathfinder First Edition or from the Wrath of the Righteous video game from our partner Owlcat Games. This is not exactly that, but if you're familiar with those, you kind of have an idea of where these are going. These are very high power, narratively flavored abilities that you graft onto your characters. They affect the way that you do adventures and the way that your character plays. Your character gains a pool of mythic points, and they can spend these mythic points to use their mythic feats and abilities. They can do stuff like wrestle something that is much larger and more powerful than they would normally be able to wrestle. They can run across water. They can do all of these really cool things, and they do them exceptionally well. And when they do them, they typically get to add a bonus using mythic proficiency. This is a special proficiency that adds +10 to whatever other modifiers you have for the role. So if normally you are a character who's got a high athletics and you're already adding strength and a big athletics score, this will just juice it right through the roof. let you wrestle anything, leap over anything, things like that, based on the mythic options and feats that you choose for your character. And once you've kind of gotten a hold of this mythic power and learned how to use it, eventually you will unlock a mythic destiny. These mythic destinies are things like the Archfiend, or an Ascended Celestial, or the Prophesied Monarch, which lets you play a character like King Arthur. These give you huge, powerful narrative abilities that allow you as the player to reach into the game world and do things that might otherwise kind of be limited to just the GM. If you're a Prophesied Monarch, you can give a decree of prosperity, and not only does that decree buff all of your allies, making them powerful and more effective, but it also spreads out across the entire land around you. And people that you meet later in that same area might hail you for the unusual bounty of their crops, the unusual willingness of others to pay them above and beyond for their mercantile goods, and things like that. Everything you do as you begin to achieve your mythic destiny starts having a rippling effect outworld across the game world, and really allows you to make every story your own and insert yourself into the story in a way that really goes above and beyond what a lot of traditional D20 tabletop RPGs used to allow. But mythic power also requires mythic threats. So we also have a big array of mythic monsters in this book. Some of these are powerful, high-level demons. You might even see some crossover with our other book, Divine Mysteries, where some of these are worshipped as gods in their own right. And some of them are craftier, lower-level opponents whose mythic power makes them much, much trickier to defeat or deal with than a normal creature of their type. There are templates for taking any monster and converting it into one of these mythic monsters, and there are also big 6-page sections that take some of these mythic monsters and give you a whole spiel about how to use them in your adventures, how they might interact with characters of any level, and also introduces items and other abilities that bring more of the specific mythic flavor of that monster into your adventure in ways that the players can experience. Once you've gotten through all of this, once you've checked out the new classes and decided if one of those is what you were going to play, looked at the new class archetypes and seen if, hey, do I want to talk to the GM about retraining my existing character into this class archetype, or do I want to build a new one? Once you've gained mythic power and slain mythic monsters, you're just getting started. Because the War of Immortals is part of a major meta event that goes across multiple product lines here at Paizo. In our Lost Omens line, we're going to have Divine Mysteries, which gives you a whole bunch of new gods and other options that will sync in very well with the story of War of Immortals, as well as letting you see other pieces of that story through those lines. And then we'll have a whole array of adventures as well that also continue to support this story and allow you to use these tools, discover these tools, or see how more of these tools might enter the world. But I'm not the best person to tell you about that, so I'm going to go ahead and send the mic along at this point to my good friend Luis Loza and James Jacobs, and let them tell you how those pieces of the story will come into play.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a fun Gen Con so far, even though it's just starting. I'm here to talk about some of the cool adventures we've got planned to tie into the War of Immortals event. First up, we've got a standalone adventure called Pray for Death. This is a high-level adventure for characters who are part of the Red Mantis Assassins. And we're not going to get into too many spoilers, but this adventure takes place before the events of War of Immortals take place. And as it plays out, your characters will be a part of those events to a certain, they'll be spectating some of the big dooms that happen in the ranks of the divine. And Pray for Death is, I believe, out now, so you can check that out as soon as you like. It's again for high-level characters, starting around 14th to 18th level, and again is a standalone adventure. Over on the adventure path side, we've got 2 adventure paths in the coming months that will tie into the War of Immortals storyline. The first of those is the Curtain Call adventure path. In Curtain Call, your player characters have already gone through a 1st through 10th level campaign, be that something that we've published and you run, like Abomination Vaults, or a game of your own design. But when Curtain Call begins, your player characters have come to the attention of a famous director who wants to turn your previous adventures into a spectacular opera that will be shown in the city of Cantargo. And this director wants your player characters to take part in that as initially as consultants and expert, but increasingly as producers of this opera. So Curtain Call is a high-level adventure path, starting at 11th level, goes all the way up to 20th level. It's a 3-part adventure path. And it's got kind of 2 themes going on. There's one sort of a whimsical element where you are putting on this big play, this big opera, and trying to wrangle all of the different, actors and composers and set up special effects and handling scandals as they pop up. And then eventually putting on a premiere of this opera where certainly nothing will go wrong. And at the same time, there's this subversive element, cult element associated with with the god of well, I don't want to spoil too much, but a sinister evil god is trying to do something evil, as they generally do, and this starts becoming more and more entangled with what your player characters are trying to accomplish with their opera. So they're kind of juggling, on the one hand, this sort of whimsical, fun, role play intensive opera creation, and at the same time dealing with a bunch of urban themed skullduggery and sneaking around and a certain number of like infiltration type content. And by the end of this, the way that it ties into the War of Immortals plotline is pretty bombastic, pretty over the top. Again, I'm not going to give spoilers out, but your characters will have front row seats to some of the changes in some of the other deities that we haven't yet talked about as repercussions of this. Again, that's a 3-part adventure path. Followed up by that one at the end of the year is the Triumph of the Tusk adventure path. Unlike Curtain Call, Triumph of the Tusk takes place in the immediate aftermath of the War of Immortals event, and it is set in the land of Belkzen, and is a adventure path where you are joining forces with the orcs of this region, where they're basically trying to come to terms with the fact that there's been a big upset in the pantheon of orc deities, and at the same time there's manipulations and influences from other sources like the Whispering Tyrant Tar-Bathon, perhaps. And your characters don't need to be orcs. This is a great adventure path if the entire party wants to play orcs. But at the same point, anybody who is allied with Belkzen and wants to see that region succeed and grow will find a lot to do in this adventure path. This is a low-level adventure path, 3-part adventure path, and it will be running through to the end of the year. And that's what we've got planned for the rest of the year for our adventure paths and standalone adventures. I hope you have fun playing around with them. And let me hand it off now to Luis for what's coming next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Luis Loza, your creative director of Pathfinder Rules and Lore, and I'm here to tell you about another book coming down the line here. Just a few months. It's called Lost Omens, Divine Mysteries. This book is diving deep into all things divine, all things about the gods and the mortals who worship them, and has a lot of fun and exciting things coming for you. If you are someone who worships a god, whether you're a cleric or a champion who receives divine power, or just, your typical fighter or rogue that happens to call it Caden Kalian for a bit of good drink, or to Desna for a bit of luck while you're adventuring. This book is being written by a character in the setting, a Nosoi psychopomp by the name of Yavali. She works on behalf of Pharasma and is writing essentially a big grad school paper, final thesis, all about the divine powers that influence the Inner Sea region in the Lost Omens setting. She has been trying to learn why mortals worship gods, why gods grant them power, and really get to understand gods and the divine influences that they have to better understand and help mortal souls once they reach the afterlife. As a result, we get to see a bit of her research and learn a lot of different things about divinity and the secrets of gods, as it were. Her book begins with a couple of in-setting essays written by her that describe a couple of different things, such as why gods choose to even grant mortals power, and how a new god is born. Where does that power come from? And also, what happens when a god dies? Kind of relevant currently with all things going on. And it explains, as best as she can understand it, everything about the divine, and is a great jumping off point for your games and deciding what you know or may not know about gods and divine power for your characters. After that, we go into the core deities of the Inner Sea region. These includes the likes of Abadar and Desna, Arazni, who is among the core 20 now, Sarenrae. These are all deep dives into the different core deities. If you read our previous Gods book, Gods and Magic, you got about 1 or 2 pages for each of these gods. These are now double in size, have a lot more information, have pictures or illustrations for each of the deities as well as one of their worshippers, so you know what kind of clothing they might wear and things like that, and can base that kind of look for your characters. And then, of course, they give you all the basic information you need, things like what spells you receive, domains, things like that. After that, we go into even more divinities, more gods. There's a lot of gods with a lot of influence in the Inner Sea region, just maybe not as prominent as these core deities, but there's a lot of old classics here, a lot of favorites you might know. Chakek shows up, Apsu, Besmara, Dehak, Grandmother Spider, Tsukio. These are all gods you might know from previous entries in the Lost Omens books or from other adventures. But there's also new gods you might not have seen before, or gods that you have heard of but haven't had as much information of in the past. Gods like Apuk, Kamatsats, who's the god of blood and bats, or Embarl and Obari. They are brothers who represent 2 of the different oceans in Galarian, off to the east in Kazmaran, or even Kaldamesh, who is one of the Arcadian gods that's all about guns. If you want a gunslinger deity, you finally have this option and a couple of other options in this book. A lot of interesting opportunities for new divinities. If you have a god, or if you have a character who wants to worship a god but haven't quite found your perfect god among the core 20, you're sure to find some among this enormous list of gods here. And if that's not enough, we have even more divinities and more groupings that you can look at. We have a variety of different groups, like our Imperial Lords, our Demon Lords, great old ones, if you like those kind of guys. These are also covered in here, and they may not be as prominent as some of these other gods, but there are so many of them that their influence is still felt within the Inner Sea and across Galarian, of course, throughout the entire multiverse. And some of these groupings are ones that we've seen before, like the ones I just described, or they are ones that you haven't had a chance to look into quite yet in 2nd edition, but might have known about from our previous offerings. These include the Infernal Dukes, who are members of Hell, but not quite as powerful as the Archdevils, or the Clipoth Lords, who rule parts of the Outer Rifts, but are kind of working against demon lords, the Sarkorian gods of Sarkoris. You know, if you want to worship those, there are a variety of individual powerful gods like the Stag Mother, or there are groupings of these gods as well that you can worship as a collective. The giant gods are here. There are lots of giant gods. And I say giant gods that are gods for giants, but not necessarily only for giants if you want to worship some of these, like Yurdamar, who is a god of were creatures and the hunt. You know, there are ways that you can worship these without having to necessarily be fully invested in being an orc to worship an orc god, or a goblin for a goblin god, or giants for the giant gods. There's so many different offerings here. And beyond that, we also offer pantheons, which are groupings of gods that might have a general theme together. For example, we have the Radiant Prism, which are the grouping of Desna and Shelyn and Sarenrae, 3 of them together, 3 morally upstanding goddesses that happen to be in a romantic relationship and together can be worshipped as one. There's a lot of different offerings for that as well. So many options for what you want to worship. And if you're not a worshiping kind, it's still kind of fun to see what these gods are doing, who their allies are, who their enemies are, learn the kind of groupings that they have. But of course, you might just want new character options. And of course, Divine Mysteries definitely has plenty of character options. If you are a divine character like a champion or a cleric, you're going to have new options here. Champions have a variety of new feats, including the various oath feats that you can use to, call an oath against dragons or undead, to, go smite and defeat these enemies. If you are a cleric, there is a new class archetype for clerics called the Battle Harbinger, which is all about getting into combat and really fighting hand-to-hand or just making the most of your combat abilities. You have limited spell casting as a result, but you're kind of really making up for it with how well you can fight. And you have additional special powers, new abilities, new spells that you can use to really support that. We call those battle auras that really make it possible to support yourself and your allies in combat and really go forward into that. There are new spells here. There are domains in this book. There are no new domains, but we've collected every domain so far in second edition, so we have them all remastered and ready to go for you. There's the Palatine Detective, which is an investigator class archetype, which is all about learning about the mysterious esoteric order of the Palatine Eye, and eventually possibly gaining some spell casting, whether divine or occult spell casting. You have a choice. There's mysterious reasons for that, and you'll learn more about those in those books. And of course, we have other classes that are getting support as well, like our Oracle, which is getting the new Blight mystery. It's all about causing rot and decay. Or the Witch, is getting a couple of new patrons, including the Paradox of Opposites. It's all about controlling the powers of both life and death and being able to manipulate those using divine power. There's so many options in here, so many gods in here, so many, in fact, that we have to have a massive table at the end of the book that just tells you all the information on these gods. That we crammed in as much as we could in here. Try to grab basically as many gods as we could from first edition and second edition and get them all updated for you and ready to go in the remastered format. So if you are excited to learn about all things divine, all things mysterious and godlike, and everything that comes with that, feel free to check out Lost Omens Divine Mysteries coming out later this year. And we hope that you are excited to learn a couple of these secrets of these gods that you may not have realized were a secret so far. There's a couple of gods I have yet to mention over these couple of panels and other times we've talked about this book because I want to keep them secret. I hope you're excited for what's in there. But after this, we're going to go over to learn a little bit about our fiction. So let's hand it over to Mark Moreland and talk about that.
Thanks, Luis. I'm Mark Moreland. I'm Paizo's Director of Brand Strategy, and over the last year, I've had the privilege of working with one of Pathfinder's most prolific and fan favorite authors of our past Pathfinder Tales fiction on a new novel that we have coming in November that will tie in with the War of Immortals plotline and delve deep in some mysteries that have been long-standing in the Pathfinder universe, such as what's the deal with Rovagug's prison? As you can see here, we've got a few iconics. In this illustration, we have Mariciel, the iconic rogue, and Kyra, her wife, the iconic cleric, fighting a pretty nasty monster. Well, that's a spawn of Rovagug, and these two, as well as Ezrin, the iconic wizard, and Amiri, the iconic barbarian, are tasked by one of the surviving gods to prevent this attractive fella here and his allies, who are a little bit more human, maybe not entirely human, from releasing their god from his eternal slumber. And I guess he hasn't been slumbering, but you know, anyway, from his prison. And in the novel Pathfinder God's Reign, which comes out, as I said, in November of 2024. This is a hardcover release that takes these four characters from the deserts of Osirian to the heart of the Eye of Abendigo, where they will have to, like I said, prevent good old Rovagug from making himself a little bit more present in the world, which would result in a lot more gods dying, let me tell you that. So the God's Reign is coming out in hardcover, in audiobook, and ebook on November 5th. So make sure that you pre-order it, that you let your local bookstore know that you're interested in it so that they have it on the shelves. It would really help us to relaunch our fiction line since 2017 when Pathfinder Tales sunsetted. And if this book does well, we would certainly love to do more fiction and explore future events in the world of Golarion, both through the eyes of iconics as well as some other characters. So this is my cry to you, Pathfinder fans. Help us make God's Reign a big success. If you can't wait until November to
to really dig your teeth into some Pathfinder fiction, we've got 2 digital exclusive books coming out in September and October that are both sort of preludes to God's Reign. The first of those is The God's Reign Prophecies by Aaron Roberts, which back in the spring, late winter, early spring of this year, debuted on the Paizo blog, and it gave hints as to which god might be the one dying in the War of Immortals event before we revealed that it was Gorham. And the speculation, the fan engagement with that was really exciting to watch from inside Paizo, and I think that got a lot of people invested in the War of Immortals event. And so we've collected all of those. Aaron has gone back in, written additional footnotes and marginalia by Yavali, the psychopomp, who has sort of collected these prophecies and analyzed them, as well as additional material exploring the identity of the mysterious seer who penned the prophecies in the first place. So even if you read and followed along week after week when the God's Reign prophecies first debuted in February and March, you'll want to pick this up just to see a little bit more analysis from Yavali down the road after they've looked at the document as a whole instead of piece by piece, at chapter by chapter, as well as to explore who it was who wrote it, which I know was a big question that a lot of fans had, with some pretty fun theories of which you'll have to read to find out if you were correct. The second of these digital books is called Before the God's Reign. That comes out in October. And it will collect a series of Meet the Iconics blogs that'll be expanded and updated with additional sort of flavor for these characters that didn't exist in 2007 and 2008 when they first debuted. So we'll sort of update their origins for new readers. We will include additional pieces of Pathfinder fiction that appeared on the blog, as well as a few new pieces to sort of give people a primer on who these 4 iconics are, so that when they pick up God's Reign, they already have the same familiarity with the characters that those of you who've been playing Pathfinder for the last almost 20 years have with them, because they've been there the whole ride along with you. So we're giving people that early taste. It's not required to read them before you read God's Reign. It stands completely on its own. But if you just can't wait until November, we're providing those 2 opportunities to whet your appetite, get excited about the novel before November 5th when that comes out. So again, these are all available to pre-order on Paizo.com, on Amazon.com, the Kindle store, Apple Bookstore, anywhere you can buy digital books, they should be available. And for the God's Reign novel, you can pre-order a physical copy of that or the ebook and audiobook as well. So we'd really appreciate you taking a look at them. I think people are really going to like them, and I can't wait to follow up with you guys in late November or early December and sort of get everyone's feedback. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand the mic off to my colleagues James Case and Eleanor Farron, who are going to talk a little bit about Tian Xia, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Lost Omens section of our Gen Con keynote. I'm James Case, and with me is Eleanor Farron, and we were the co-leads on the Tian Xia project. Eleanor, what is Lost Omens Tian Xia?
Lost Omens Tian Xia is a campaign setting for our Pathfinder world of Golarion. And rather than focusing on Avestan, which is sort of our main focus for Golarion most of the time, this is focusing on the continent of Tian Xia, which is more based in Asian culture and folklore.
Yeah. So the Tian Xia project is a series of 2 books, the Tian Xia World Guide, which is our big look into the setting, the continent, and the Tian Xia Character Guide, which is our big book of player options based on Asian fantasy, folklore, and all that kinds of good stuff. I think right now we can see the cover of both of them. I really like both of these covers a lot. I like the dragon in the boat race especially. I think he's just trying to keep up.
Just trying to have a good time.
Yeah. So the Tian Xia book is a big setting dive into all places on this continent. So, you know, we have everything from some very action-heavy places, some places that are a little more sedate, some places that are more spooky. Eleanor, what's a region in Tian Xia that you think is good fun?
Oh, good fun is probably Queen. That is our exceedingly martial arts oriented nation. If you watched the end of Shaolin Soccer and saw the main character's dream come to life, with people using kung fu to help park their cars and get to work, then that is what you might find in Queen. Even the most mundane of peasants probably know some martial art moves to put you to shame, and everybody likes to fight each other, and it's good fun.
I'm a big fan of the haunted nation of Shenmen. It's where we set our season of Ghost Adventure Path last year. Think forest haunted by ghosts, Jorogumo, spider demons, that kind of thing. It's a really good place for horror, really spooky, and it's run by ghostly bureaucrats, which is good fun
Which is
as well.
slightly worse than normal bureaucrats.
Tian Xia also focuses on, you know, other parts of the settings that are maybe a little more spiritual. You know, we have a huge section of new gods that are part of the nation of Tian Xia. We have everything from Sun Wukong, who is here as well, to other deities for your characters to worship. Eleanor, do you have one that I think stands out for you?
Oh, Lady Jingxi, our dear beloved poet, who is Hei Feng's ex-wife because Hei Feng sucks as a husband, and usually in general, if we're gonna be super honest. But Lady Jingxi loves quiet poetry and transitive moments and the beauty of dawn and fleeting plum blossoms and sakura petals. And for some reason, she didn't get on very well with her husband, so she
A
left.
literal storm deity. So there's a lot there. One of
But she uses a mirror to make dawn and dusk, and it's very beautiful.
And lastly, in this book, we have the thing that a lot of game masters want to throw at their players, which is all sorts of new monsters, which are based in all kinds of Asian mythology, and also just things that are more unique to the continent of Tian Xia, like the haunted clockworks that live underneath the continent.
Oh, I hope
Um,
you have a picture of that hopping head up. It's delightful
oh yeah.
to somebody, not your players.
And so the Tian Xia World Guide is a really big and expansive setting guide. It's a vibrant look into the nation of Tian Xia with all sorts of hooks based on Asian fantasy, but also those that are based on the nations in Tian Xia, on the world of Galarian. You can pick it up right now down in our booth and check it out. And once you've read through it and you've maybe found a nation you really like, say you looked at that nation of Quain with its high-powered supernatural martial arts, and you say, hey, I really want to build a character there. I think we have a book for you coming up right in August. Eleanor, what can you tell us about the cover of this Tian Xia character guide?
Oh, the Tian Xia character guide. That is a thing from Japanese mythology known as the Thousand Yokai Parade. There's a Japanese term for it that you probably know better than me. I forgot it. um, And I wanted to show that off because I wanted people to understand that most of the creatures in this cover are playable in our system. Even the shoes, even the little goblin sandals that are hopping up
Oh,
and
we'll
down,
talk about the shoes in just a little bit.
you can play that thanks to this product.
Yeah. So the Tian Xia character guide has all sorts of character options for basically your wildest characters based on whether that's based on Chinese ghost stories, Filipino fables, what have you here. And one of the big ways here is 6 completely playable brand new ancestries, which I think you can see up on the screen right now.
Yeah,
Um,
we've got that big Tanuki on the cover showing off, and you can play a Tanuki thanks to this book.
yeah. One of the ones that I very like as well as a Saran guy, they are a water buffalo headed creature with magical gems that call in the powers of the earth and the moon. They have all sorts of fun abilities based on that as well. Um, But Pathfinder is also a game where we have a lot of ancestries and we have a lot of heritages out there now that you can play with some of the ancestries in the core, in Player Core 2, which is out now as well. And we've gone through and we've kind of gotten some of that Tian Xia flavor for a lot of these specific ancestries and heritages. One here that you can see coming up on the screen is the Bakua, which is a type of lizard folk. These are known to eat the moon. So this is a brand new heritage of lizard folk that you can play. They are very cool. They can have a little crocodile twin at high levels. They can eat the moon. It's an ability.
But only for a little bit.
Yeah. And next we have our example of those sandals we were telling you about, the Sukumogami heritage.
That is a heritage that keys off the poppet. But instead of being a little doll, you are a household item that may have been taken very good care of, or maybe not taken very good care of, depending on what you want your backstory to look like.
So if you want to play as a haunted or awakened magical instrument or umbrella or what have you, you can do that. And you have all sorts of ghostly powers, like making a big illusory spooky face or awakening the spirit of other objects. So there is a huge variety of heritages and ancestries to play as, to be what kind of person you want to be in Tian Xia. But of course, we all know that you want to have new class abilities, new archetypes, new feats. And we've pulled on everything from very deep folkloric cuts to some more modern fantasy as well. Something you can see here is our example of a medicine seller. We have a number of feats here that are tied to very traditional interpretations of Eastern medicine. You can do things like balance the energy in your body to various effects and cleanse yourself of diseases and poisons through the use of medicine. And we also have something here that's a little more modern. Eleanor, I know that this was one you were really happy about.
Oh yes, the Starlit Sentinel, or as everyone will probably call it, the Magical Girl. And why not? We're here to have fun, and honestly, the story of a magical girl getting a power from some kind of super adorable familiar is not that different from your typical witch. But we wanted to key it more into the tropes that you often see in magical girl animes and get that really sense of someone granting you power so you can fight evil by moonlight and win hearts by daylight.
Yeah, and this is a good example of the way the World Guide and Character Guide were written together by an enormous team of authors, over 40 authors altogether, which really gave us a chance to have things where, as we were developing, for instance, the zodiac and astrology of the nation, we could also have this zodiac-themed archetype as well. Lastly, the book closes out. You mentioned a fun magical familiar. I know I'm not the only player who probably goes into a monster encounter and comes away with maybe a cute magical pet. This book has a number of new magical familiars, companions, and cool items to play with. So you have all sorts of things to sort of kit out your characters and, you know, traveling companions and all that sort of thing. I think this here is called a Sundiflora.
Oh yes, the Syndiflora. Yeah, they're just adorable little flower thingies that follow you around and do little wavy dances. I do also want to talk about the paper familiars and how they have a new trait that makes them expendable, but you can get them back very easily because we know that you witches love to blow up your familiars.
I think that the Shikigami familiar has an ability called mass produced, where you know, if your familiar dies, or to Eleanor's point, is used as kindling in an elemental spell, you can fold up a new one the next day and it comes back. It's probably fine with that. I wouldn't worry about it.
Don't worry about your familiar murdering you in your sleep out of resentment.
But yeah, the Tian Xia books are a huge and vibrant look into the continent of Tian Xia, into fantasy based on Asian folklore, whether that's very ancient or very modern. The World Guide is out now. You can pick it up on the show floor, and the Character Guide comes out in August. If it's open for pre-order now. If you subscribe to Lost Omens line, you also get a complimentary PDF along with your purchase, which is nice for when you are flipping through it to find all of your Tanuki feats or various magical abilities or what have you. So we hope that you check it out and enjoy it. And we will pass things along to James Jacobs with the narrative team to talk about what's coming up in our adventures. Have a good Gen Con, everyone.
Hey, it's me again, James Jacobs, Creative Director of Narrative for Pathfinder, and I'm here to announce some upcoming adventures that we're going to be publishing the early half of next year. The first of these is in the standalone adventure line. We've got a standalone adventure called Claws of the Tyrant. We recently, with Pray for Death, which is out now, have shifted our standalone adventures to a hardcover 128-page format. We'll be doing that going forward. But that doesn't mean all of our standalone adventures are going to be one single long adventure. In Claws of the Tyrant, for example, this is an anthology. It's got 3 different adventures, one for low level, one for mid level, one for high level, all associated with the region once known as Lastfall, now known as the Gravelands, where your different characters are basically caught up in these undead horror shows, or helping out. One of them, one of the middle ones, you actually play evil characters associated with the Tarbathon. So it's going to be 3 different adventures that you don't necessarily play through with the same characters, but you will be able to allow to pick and choose to basically experience the story of what's going on in the Gravelands. And again, that'll be coming out early next year in the standalone adventure line. Over for the Adventure Paths, we announced previously at PaizoCon, the first Adventure Path for next year is Spore War. This is a 3-part high-level adventure path where the player characters get to eventually fight and perhaps defeat the Demon Lord Tree Raiser. Tree Raiser has been sort of a big bad, a personal favorite of mine. I created him for my own campaign decades ago, and he ended up being like the boss monster of Bestiary, and now boss monster Core. And so we didn't want to just put his stats out there and never do anything with him. So this is the adventure path where Tree Raiser and his demonic armies, which are situated south of the elven nation of Kyonin in this tangled, swampy land called Tanglebriar, they launch a war on the elves to the north. In the Spore War adventure path, this 3-part adventure path is for high-level characters again. Just as Triumph of the Tusk is the orc adventure path, this could be the elf adventure path. But again, you don't have to play elves in this game. You just need to play people who want to fight against the demons and of Tanglebriar and help save Kyonin from the advance of these monsters. And this is, again, high-level adventure path. It's going to go deep into Tanglebriar. There's a mix of sort of like a lot of wilderness content, some dungeon crawl elements, and sort of as this war progresses, your player characters aren't going to be on the battlefields of these mass battles, but as you progress through your own skirmish type missions and like behind the scenes infiltration type missions, your triumphs and successes there will build up the nation's morale, and you'll be able to influence how these big battles play out as sort of almost like cutscenes that take place in between your adventures. So that one is coming out early next year. 3-part adventure path. We've got a second 3-part adventure path that we are announcing right now. This one is coming out in the spring, and it is the Shades of Blood adventure path. And this is a low-level adventure path starting at first level. And this adventure path, I don't want to spoil too much. We don't have a lot to show off about it yet. I just wanted to get it going. This is an adventure path that revolves around vampires and vampirism. It's not necessarily a horror adventure path. It's a more action-packed adventure path than we've done with like Season of Ghosts and other sort of stuff. A lot of dungeon crawling elements. It takes place in the shattered continent of Aslant, where your player characters witness an unnerving incident where this shadowy mass rises up from the sea and starts to blot out the sky, and then you are basically the right heroes at the right place at the right time to go investigate what's causing this creepy shade to come down upon the region. and you'll soon figure out that there's the vampires. There's vampires going on. So if you like fighting vampires and all of those other blood drinking creatures that they associate with, Shades of Blood is going to be the campaign for you. And that's what we've got to announce for the adventure line. Let me kick it over to Landon for some other big announcements.
Hi, I'm Landon Winkler with the Rules and Lore team here on Paizo, working on the Lost Omens line for Pathfinder. Here to talk about a book that we've all been working on called Lost Omens Rival Academies. It's releasing in spring of 2025. It's at its core about schools. We have a range of schools across the Inner Sea and beyond that are showing off both different parts of our settings, but also giving you all the information you need to make a character who studied at that school or is currently studying at that school. So there are some mechanical bits there. Some schools already have a little bit of support. You can see Magambia here on the cover, our sort of Afro fantasy magic academy, which already has quite a few archetypes and stuff. So they get more spells and the like. And also Lepidstadt, which is our sort of gothic, Victorian, a little bit steampunk, and it is getting different support to allow you to kind of live out a bit more of that Frankenstein vibe. So the entire thing is, like I said, about these schools, but what are they doing? Why are we talking about them? Comes down to what they're calling the Six Schools Convocation. And it is an attempt to just sort of gather and preserve knowledge inspired by the events in Sarkoris in our setting, now called the Sarkoris Scar. You may be more familiar with it as the World Wound. It was about 100 years ago, completely overrun by demons, a massive portal to the Outer Rifts, releasing essentially an endless number of them. That rift, thanks to the heroes of the Wrath with Righteous adventure path, has been closed, but there's still a lot of demons there. It's not been the sort of, light switch thing where suddenly, they all disappear just because you killed the big boss at the end. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot that can be done to reclaim both the land and the heritage of the Sarkorian people. So these schools have come together to help that and to kind of allay their own fears of the same thing happening to them in the future. So they are showing off their sweetest new spells and technology. It's sort of a world's fair at this convocation. And while they're there, also hopefully, killing some demons, helping restore some of the land in Sarkoris, and generally be good folks. The rivalry, of course, comes in both on the simple question of who can kill the most demons, but also the question of academics. If we are preserving knowledge, yeah, we're preserving all of the knowledge, but whose knowledge is actually the most important? And if you've ever been in academia or talked to an academic for long enough, you'll quickly find that this is some of the harshest rivalries that you will run into, and I think that's reflected in some of the schools here. Also, the questions of as we get into fantasy, a lot of the is this approach to a horde of demons appropriate? Like, do we have a terrible, terrible idea that will really solve it, but actually create a worse problem? Or do we have things that, ethically aren't quite right? And navigating that is also a huge sort of tension, as you can see on the cover that we saw earlier. So because you have this sort of fractured almost argument, all of the information is presented by the attendees of the convocation itself. You have students or professors from all of these academies who are telling you about their schools, their research, all of these things, their colleagues at the same schools, and what that comes down to is, I think it ends up making a really, both it's interesting to read, but it's also really great for, I think, as a player, you can just read the whole section on your school or the whole book if you decide to. And it doesn't have, hey, the headmaster of this school is, such and such demon as like the first line of the introduction. It's actually introducing you to the school's vibe, what it's like, the people that you've met, the sort of classes that everyone has to take that everyone hates, the classes that everybody has to take that everybody loves, and what that experience was actually like, so you can kind of jump off from that. And on the GMing side, whether you're throwing, using the convocation in a campaign or not, you do have this tremendous variety of NPCs and plot hooks. And at the same time, you have a book that you can hand to the players, and they're like, well, what's it actually, like going to school at Lepidstadt or the Magambia, or, these universities that are just kind of names floating out there. It's like, well, here you go. Like this, they literally can explain it to you. And I think there's really a lot of fun to be had there, along with the fun of the convocation itself, if you want to drop that into your game. One school in particular that I do want to call out that is not necessarily a focus, but does answer a question that's been asked as we've gone through the remaster process and released the recent player core, GM core, monster core, is what's going to happen to the Runelords, an important part of our setting, wizards that pull upon the power of the 7 runes of sin, essentially, to use magic based on wrath, sloth, gluttony. And with the remaster, it's become a little awkwardly placed. So their school gets its own little section with a whole bunch of new mechanical material for the Runelords, but also a little window opening into what it's like to learn that sort of rune magic, that sin magic, from the people of Thassalon, rather than, gleaning it from ruins as people had to do for so long, because New Thassalon is now an extant force in the setting. So we get to sort of get a peek into that, and also see just mechanically a really sweet new version of the Runelord class archetype for wizards. So yeah, I think that it's going to be really exciting. I think that people will be able to have a lot of fun with this. All right, and let's hand it over to our director of games, Jason Bullman, for a little about Pathfinder Quest.
Hi there, I'm Jason Bullman, Director of Game Design at Paizo, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about Pathfinder Quest. Pathfinder Quest is a cooperative fantasy adventure board game for 1 to 4 players. In Pathfinder Quest, you build your character, you choose their abilities, and guide them on epic adventures set in a classic part of the Pathfinder setting, the Darkmoon Vale, one of the first places we ever explored. Quest is played over a series of adventures, forming a larger story where your choices determine what adventures you play next and how the story unfolds. Quest uses custom D6s to resolve actions, but it features several aspects of the Pathfinder RPG that players of that game will find immediately familiar. For example, when you make your character in Quest, you start by selecting an ancestry with one of two backgrounds and a class, giving you kind of a unique blend of abilities. Here you can see, what happens if you choose a dwarf versus an elf if you want to be a wizard, or a goblin versus a human if you want to be a fighter. In addition to that, you get to select your feats and spells, giving you even more customized choices. And every time you level up, you'll get more feats and spells to add to your character, giving you more power and a different play experience every time you go on an adventure. Now let's take a moment to talk about the game itself. During each session of Quest, you will go on a complete adventure. Using the adventure book, you will lay out tiles, enemies, and challenges for the heroes to overcome. Quest is more than just fighting monsters. Throughout play, you will be presented with a number of challenges that test your skill and bravery. You decide how to approach these problems and then refer to the challenge book to learn the outcome. For example, you might try and calm down some spooked horses, or you might try and break into a treasure chest you find. You could try and pick the lock, or you could just smash your way in. Now, picking the lock might be harder, but smashing the chest might destroy some of the objects inside. Ultimately, the choice of what path to take and what risk to do is up to you. Now, each adventure comes to its own satisfying conclusion, but at the end of that, you are oftentimes presented with one or more adventures to continue the story, forming a larger campaign and completing the overarching tale. Now, Pathfinder Quest is coming to BackerKit in spring of 2025. Our previous announcement had it launching this fall, but as this is kind of our first big board game with cards and tiles and dice and 12 custom minis, we realized we needed a bit more time to make the game as good as it possibly could be. But you can sign up for news and updates about the game right now over at BackerKit to be the first to learn about the final launch date and to secure a bonus metal coin to be added to your pledge for free. We might even have a fun hint at one of our upcoming stretch goals over there right now. So go check it out at this QR code or at the link below. The town of Falcon's Hollow needs your help. Undead are attacking, the nearby volcano is suddenly flared to life, and something sinister is lurking behind the scenes, threatening the lives of every person in Darkmoon Vale. Are you brave enough to go on this quest and become a hero? Sign up now for news about this epic adventure launching on BackerKit in spring of 2025. And with that, I'll toss it back to Eric to wrap up the presentation.
Oh, wow. That is pretty awesome. I cannot wait for Pathfinder Quest. I've already seen some of the preliminaries. The art is amazing. The gameplay is novel. This thing is going to be rad, and we're so excited to launch it very soon. Thank you to everyone, all of my colleagues who shared their excitement and stories in the previous segment of this keynote. I am back. Once again, I am your Master of Ceremonies, Eric Mona, publisher at Paizo. And thank you very, very much for your time, your attention, your support. We just love Gen Con because it's such a great opportunity to get face-to-face with the people who play our games. If you see us in the hallways, flag us down, say hi. We can't wait to talk to you. If you're not at the show, keep tuned here. We've got programming on this channel. Our streaming partners have programming. There's going to be a lot of Pathfinder and Starfinder this week and weekend, my friends. And we are so excited to be a part of it. We're so excited that you can be a part of it too. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for paying attention to our humble keynote. Let me remind you one more time about the amazing sale that we have going on right now at Paizo.com. Use the discount code GenCon2024, all one word at checkout, and you will receive a 20% discount off your entire order. That is an amazing deal. We very, very rarely do a deal that generous, but Gen Con is Gen Con, and we just cannot but share our excitement for our products and for getting them in your hands. And this is a great time and a great discount code to check out a bunch of new stuff, maybe a bunch of old stuff you missed. Now, it won't work on certain back orders, pre-orders, and subscriptions, but for the most part, virtually everything on Paizo.com is on sale for 20% off if you use that code GenCon2024. The other major takeaway, the other thing that everyone should do immediately following this presentation, go to starfinderplaytest.com and download your free copy of the Starfinder Playtest Rulebook. We are so excited to get your feedback for this exciting innovation in the Starfinder rules. Starfinder is coming to the rule set of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's what people have been asking for since about 36 seconds after 2nd Edition Pathfinder released. Unfortunately, it takes longer than 36 seconds to update an entire game system. We have taken our first shot at it. Now it is your turn. Give it a read. Give it a play. Let us know what you think. We are committed to continuing to make changes up till the second that thing goes to the printer for full release at Gen Con in 2025. But there's a lot of work to happen between now and then. And we are so excited that you will be a part of that work. Go to starfinderplaytest.com, download a copy of the Starfinder Playtest book, take a look at it, play it, and give us your feedback. We cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention and for your patronage of Paizo. We literally could not do it without you. We love doing it. We love what we do. We love Pathfinder and Starfinder, and we love the opportunity every year to get to meet in person with our players. If you're at the show, come on by, say hi. Paizo is in booth 203 and the Sagamore Ballroom, and we cannot wait to throw some dice with you and say hello. So from Eric Mona here at Paizo, and on behalf of everyone at Paizo, whether at Gen Con or not, we thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Stay tuned, more programming on this channel coming right up.